All right, everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case. Over on Rumble, of course. Unpause and then repause. We got some great news today. Of course, starting off with the Gaza peace deal. It's not a permanent, long-term solution, but it's a first giant step forward for peace actually breaking out in the Middle East. Again, hook a dynamo up to John McCain's coffin, and you will have free energy to power several entire towns. So we'll talk about that. I did talk about it this morning. Negotiations, though, will be ongoing. So this is not a finalized peace deal. This is the first step that both sides agreed upon to take. They're successfully doing so, and the hope is that peace actually lasts. I mean, it's not going to last forever because look at where the region is, but it will hopefully last as long as possible before the inevitable next problem arises. It happens all the time. Green Army, Pentagon to force millions of plant-based rations on U.S. troops beginning in 2027. As somebody who is a connoisseur of military rations, and I've eaten many of them, not just U.S., but from like a dozen different countries, actually. Still have to find that South African MRE that Anton sent me, because I wanted to eat that one on camera. I want to see what's in it, actually. I'm sure that it's interesting. Looks modern. It looks properly made, so it's not like, the kind you get from maybe Eastern Europe, places like that. It's a little bit more efficient. I've got various things to talk about with that. Are ultra-processed foods truly addictive? Pro tip, the answer is yes. It gets worse than that, though. Ultra-processed foods, by the way, I hate that actual term. It's a mythology. It's just processed food. There's no such... They're trying to differentiate regular processed food. Oh, that's not that bad for you. That hamburger, which is 30% corn binders. They want to differentiate that from stuff that's like really amped up on chems and shit. They're basically the same thing. You should eat as little processed food as possible. We'll be weighing in on that. We've got HJ Resolution 105. It is passed through the Senate with a 50 to 45 vote, actually, along mainly partisan lines. That's predictable. Now it goes to Trump's desk, and he's expected to sign that. This is going to unbridle energy production in the United States, driving the cost of gas and coal and things like that way down, while making many, many jobs. This is a good thing. This is a win, an unequivocal one. Kamala Harris takes apparent shot at Trump admin in bizarre outburst. These motherfuckers are crazy. It's in her own words. And then Kimmel has settled back down after a brief sunshiny period where his ratings weren't abysmal, even though they still weren't nearly as high as other competitors that are still losing money. It's becoming inexplicable why they're even keeping him on, because really the ratings were the problem in the first place. We might get to talk about AI bias with regards to women versus men as well, because they're rambling about that. No problem. Last beacon, hey Sticks, ping us! Ping us indeed. Also, I'm done with getting Mom's birthday stuff. Now all that is left is Screamageddon, and I will be done with this month. Yeah, this month is definitely Spooky-tober, and so you can watch all sorts of great slasher flicks and stuff like that. I've never seen it. I didn't even know that this movie existed until a few days ago. Apparently there's a third Leprechaun movie, or a fourth one, Leprechaun in the Hood. And it's like almost a stoner slasher flick. I'm interested in watching it. That's what I'm talking about. Bobby, the gay pirate hat is back. Dude, I look cool, and you know it. So yeah, we'll get right into the Gaza story first, go to the sponsors, then we'll get to the rest of the news. This is a very, very important advent within the Levant, within Israel-Palestine. It's involving Arab leaders. It's involving the Egyptians. I believe Turkey has a seat at the table as well. And so you've got various sides that are trying to broker some sort of reasonably lasting peace within this particular region, which used to be Transjordan. It's not going to last forever. There will inevitably be other conflicts. There will inevitably be more fighting. There will inevitably be more bombings and rocket attacks and hostages and prisoners and all of these other things. If history tells us one thing, within living memory, there has never been a moment in that particular part of the world that has had a lasting peace. It's basically seeming calm, a nervous, hard-fought seeming calm for a few years, and then some sort of skirmish or struggle. And then the bombs fly, and the rockets fly. And then people agree to cut it out for a while. You have a few more years of relative peace, and then they do it all over again. This has been happening for thousands of years. This has been happening since long before virtually any nation that exists in the world today actually even existed back then. Like, the closest approximation you can get is the formation of a unified Greece, Iran/Persia, or Egypt, or something like that. Beyond that, you really have no civilizational civic structure that predates all of the fighting that's gone on here. And the only times that there are peace are after times of extreme bloodshed, in which the region gets effectively absorbed by a greater power. You know, the fucking Assyrians or the Roman Empire or something like that. It's the only, or Greece. It's the only time that this region has ever really been at peace, because of struggles both civic and economic as well as religious. And this will continue. But we should not undermine the importance of this particular deal. This brings about a partial ceasefire, although, you know, as we saw in Gaza City literally the other day, not necessarily a full one. But you do have the repatriation of both living and splattered remains of hostages, prisoners, and so forth. They're doing a swap. And that was a prerequisite that both countries really, in the beginning, said, that's going to have to be the first step. We can't do anything else after that. Trump managed to back him down through cunning. What he would do, and this is something that the former administration was too stupid to understand was a good idea, and that a lot of liberal commentators who are notably silent right now said wouldn't work in this scenario. What you do is you get out ahead of anyone's response to a potential kinda sort of agreed upon deal that you happen to favor, and then you talk a big game about it and say, oh yeah, everyone's on board, everyone loves this. And then you're daring them to say otherwise to their people and to the world in general. That's exactly what Trump did. Arab leaders didn't want him to release the presser before the last one prior to this announcement. They didn't want him to release it, but he did anyway. He said, well, I'm going to release it. Yeah, it's perfectly fine. Yeah, here's the progress that we've made. Then people either have to take a step back and say, whoa, you know, we haven't agreed to this tacitly, or they have to say, well, shit. I'm going to get egg on my face if I don't just go along with it, and then the United States will be breathing down my neck. It's probably better to just go along with the fucking deal. So it worked. Worked really well, actually. Last week, and also Sticks Tentacles. What are some of your favorite horror genres? I like atmospheric horror. I like slasher flicks. Those would be the two big ones, I think. Anything that's like, I like paranormal stuff too in general, so it doesn't even have to be straight up horror. It can just be spooky stuff. I even like the channels on YouTube and other places that make like mystery content, interesting, especially maritime. Sort of like maritime horrors is one of my favorite channels. Things of that nature, where you have like derelict ships and giant squid and stuff like that. I'm a little bit into the maritime thing myself. And considering the way that I usually dress, people probably aren't too confused about that. Yeah. My favorite, well, I don't even know if you can class it as a horror movie. Brotherhood of the Wolf is my favorite movie of all time. I will be watching that again probably this October. That's also, that and Hocus Pocus, they're sort of like yearly traditions. Even though I watched it like last month, might as well watch it again. I've watched it over 300 times already, so, you know, I can pretty much recite parts of that movie verbatim. Really great movie, by the way. French movie. It's kind of horror, I suppose. I mean, it's about the werewolf slash mythical monster slash conspiracy theory slash literally every other genre melted together into a slurry. It's my favorite movie of all time. As far as pure horror, I would say probably, well, Ninth Gate technically, but that's more atmospheric. If I want, like, gore and stuff, Evil Dead, the original one. Last Beacon, the skirmish will be because of a Democrat, mainly in the mold of someone like Barack Obama, that continues to fuck up the Middle East. Yeah, that's the problem, is the next administration might not be as sane as the Trump administration, too. That can be a problem. It's like you take 2 steps forward and 2 steps back, so to speak. Turtles Toy Box. Bobby, if Styx has hit it, they probably have Bovrite UTIs from Tarl's dirty wanker. I love it. Yeah, before I get into the MREs, because that's going to be a bit of a rant, let's just put it that way. And thank you very much to several people who sent me that particular news story. Let's get to our sponsor, shall we? We have cultivated-mind.com, where you can get mushroom pills. Yes, indeed, good for various ills. Gives you energy, gives you focus, works really well. I take them every single day along with the vitamins that I take. And there's also Doggy Dose. Yes, indeed. I do plan to go out on the town and try to record people's dogs' reactions to the Doggy Dose, because I think that would be funny. Seems to work. Definitely in demand. Smells good too. BiltongUSA.com, where you can get Anton's imports. You can get various meats. Biltong, of course. Wagyu, Cabanasi. You've got bison. And actually, I'm going to eat the Marmite today. I want to try some more Marmite. Let me get that stuff. This sort of seals itself because it's so gelatinous and sticky. Yeah. And still yummy, though. Good flavor. We've also got Stick, Sex, and Hammer mugs, tumblers, and shirts available. And of course, again, Anton can supply you with all the meat that you'll ever need. And finally, jamandbean.com. That is jamnbean.com. And it smells so good. We've got Clank Blend, of course. You should definitely get some of that. If you don't want Clank Blend, that's okay. All of their coffee is good, including the decaf somehow. Also various teas, like Yunnan Jig. If you want a little bit of a caffeine jolt, just grab that. That'd be perfect for if you're cooking a stir fry or something, because it really is basically like the Asian restaurant style of black tea, but it's just fresher and just better in every way. So yeah, those are our sponsors. Inland Surfer. To me, anything from the Hallmark Channel is pure horror. Copium, I like that. Copium Poppies. Speaking of slasher horror, I went and saw The Devil's Rejects. Oh yeah, Devil's Rejects, great movie. 20th anniversary screening yesterday, as I saw the 20th anniversary screening of House of 1000 Corpses a couple years ago. Both on my birthday. That's pretty cool. Last Beacon is saying ping us, ping us, ping us. That happens on a regular basis. Meisner Flux, 80s horror is great. Watch The Fog in ultra-wide. Eerie without being gratuitous in the Hitchcockian way. The unseen is scarier than the seen. Yeah, I even like the really, really low budget, really, really campy horror movies. It's a love-hate sort of thing for a lot of people. You either love it or you hate it. I happen to be on the love side. Like Troll 2, I thought was a great movie. It wasn't great because it was scary. It was great because it was like, what the hell am I even watching? Almost becomes a stoner comedy at times. Especially with that one scene where the woman walks into the camper and it's insinuated that they're banging or at least making out and pawing each other, and there's popcorn everywhere for absolutely no reason, and it makes no sense whatsoever. That scene I thought was funny. Last Beacon, now to a much more serious answer. I like either Lovecraftian horror or Italian splatter horror from the 70s and 80s. Italian horror is always kind of weird, and a lot of it's really, really good. I like it more from the 50s and 60s, though, because you always had lurid, very sexualized scenes. You always had a lot of... In Italian horror, there's got to be more than just a basic bitch romantic element. And the acting is usually pretty wooden, but the plot line, while it may not always make sense, usually is pretty good, actually. Green Army, Pentagon to force, and this is loaded language. This is clearly the Gateway Pundit is not in favor of this. To force millions of plant-based rations on U.S. troops beginning in 2027. Now, let me ask this. For those that don't know anything about rations, have they had vegetarian rations for some time? Yes, indeed they have. They've already had these options. They discontinued two of the best ones. You can't get the vegetarian ratatouille or the vegetarian lasagna anymore. I'm just glad that a subscriber sent me a bunch of the vegetarian MREs, actually. I've got them downstairs. They're all in perfect shape, too, so over time, I'll be eating them. You know, the power might go out during a winter storm, and you're like, well, at least I've got something to eat. It's pretty good. They're the low-salt version, so I put a little bit of extra salt in them, but it pretty much tastes the same. It's really good. Vegetarian food options have been available in military rations for a very long time. I don't personally see a problem with this. They're making it out as though they're going to force this on people. But if someone is a vegetarian, so they want the vegetarian entree, they probably don't want, bacon bits as a side component. Wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. And some people laugh about vegetarians. I would point out these are not vegan rations. I think that would be difficult to actually pull off scientifically. They're vegetarian. They've already had these for a very long time. I mean, those crackers and that peanut butter, that's vegetarian. The jam is vegetarian. The spice blend is vegetarian. A lot the cheese spreads and stuff like that. These are all vegetarian anyway. Normally, the meat is going to be in the entree, or it's going to be like Jack Links or something like that. It's going to be like, a little packet of freeze-dried meat. That's not bad, by the way. I mean, it's not as good as biltong. You should put that in MREs too, by the way. Shelf-stable biltong. Anton, you could become a billionaire quite easily. You get a government contract for that shit. The vegetarian ones, though, I found overall were good. Not universally, but the veggie lasagna and the ratatouille I thought were delicious, actually. So I don't really see the problem. As long as it has the same nutritional balance, and as long as it's just as efficient as something that's not vegetarian, I'm not seeing the problem here. Some people appear to be flipping out about it, actually, and I don't actually understand. They've already had vegetarian entrees for a very, very long... I think, didn't they start in 2004 or thereabouts? It's been a while. The National Razor. Horror is the master genre. Italian horror and folk horror are my preference. I got the All Haunts Be Ours folk horror collection for this month. Also revisiting Rawhead Rex this weekend. Another good one, the original Wicker Man. Not the remake with that one derpy dude, can't remember his name. The one that played Marilyn Manson in that Pope show, or whatever the fuck it was, actually did a good job playing Marilyn Manson. Sounded and looked a lot like him at the time. Now Marilyn Manson's skinny again, by the way. He lost all that drug bloatage, actually. Now he looks 20 years younger. Last Beacon. Lucio Fulci, Lamberto Bava, Umberto Lenzi, Dario Argento. Those are the directors' names off the top of my head, especially since they were video nasties, if anyone can remember that. Haha, Lamberto, get over here. Mario has come with your pasta. Oh yeah, Nicolas Cage. Yeah, Nicolas Cage is hit or miss. He acts over the top, a little bit like Captain Kirk sort of thing. So yeah, while this is partially being pushed by like animal safety groups and shit like that, really, who cares? Mercy for Animals is one of them, and they were trying to put pressure on them, but the thing is, they were inevitably going to redesign the MREs anyway. What doesn't make sense is to have a vegetarian option for those that are vegetarian, but they're still serving. They're still fucking soldiers. But not to have all the side components be vegetarian. Doesn't make sense. What are they supposed to do with the bacon strips or the Jack Links or something? I mean, they're not going to eat it. I'm sure that in combat, food is low, morale is low. Oh, I found a crate of MREs. Shit, they're all vegetarian ones. I'm sure that people that prefer meat will still eat them. And if a vegetarian says, oh, there's MREs here, there's no vegetarian option, they'll still eat them. I wouldn't think that this is going to be a problem. By the way, those vegetarian crackers, those veggie and herb blend crackers that they make taste really good, but they're too crumbly. I really wish that they would hire me as a consultant. Last weekend, my favorite movie is The Beyond or Seven Doors of Death. Haven't seen those. Copium Poppies, that was Manson on the Pope show. Lol. No. I realized that Marilyn Manson actually was doing the thing, but there was also Nicolas Cage, I did a bit, actually, as Marilyn Manson. Yeah, Manson's a cool dude. Are ultra-processed foods truly addictive? These highly engineered foods can create powerful pulls on us, similar to those of alcohol, nicotine, or opioids. Let me tell you this. Processed food in general is designed in exactly the same way. A lot of them have additives that are adding sugar to your bloodstream, so a lot of corn byproducts and shit like that. A lot of strange protein mixes from the soy side of things. and a lot of chemicals, and when they process it, it's like, this all beef patty is really only 80% beef, and the other 20% is everything else. Binders, chemicals, preservatives, and so forth. And they haven't done enough studies on the effect on the brain, number one, or on the body in general, number two, with regards to these foods. But I wanted to provide a little bit of a rebuttal to this particular article. There's no such thing as an ultra-processed food. It is simply processed food. They are all the same. It only depends on the level of processing and what you're processing them with. They should be grouped together under one category, and I see they're trying to do that linguistic trick where they nudge people towards one point of view. So don't worry about the processed food that you're eating. Yeah, it's unhealthy for you. Yeah, it is inherently addictive. Your body's going to crave more of it. It's full of empty calories, and it's bullshit, basically. But you don't have to worry about those. It's the ultra-processed foods that are the real problem. It seems like maybe elements of the food industry actually were developing this particular term in order to astroturf it. When I sat down to write this story, I remembered the gummy worms in the snack drawer of the kitchen, so I got up and grabbed a handful. I should add that I had just finished lunch, and I don't really like gummy worms, and yet I ate them. Well, that's your first mistake, because they're retarded. Gummy worms are the scum of the earth. I liked them briefly as a kid, and then very quickly grew out of eating sweets for the most part at all. Highly processed foods, and processed foods in general, basically are the same thing. You have to create an arbitrary cutoff point for what qualifies as highly processed foods or ultra-processed foods. But it's an arbitrary cutoff. What's the adulteration rate that you're willing to accept before it's ultra-processed? 10%, 20%? They never make it clear. The fact is that processed food is not good for you, generally speaking. If you're going to eat meat, it should be unprocessed meat. Vegetables do not need always to come in a can. Sometimes perfectly fine, and a little bit of preservatives or some salt or whatever that they add it's probably not going to kill you. But these are basically the original idea of that kind of food was survival food more than anything else. The original, like the canned food, that was more like you're going to be out at sea for 2 months, so we stocked, lead sealed usually, whoops, cans in order for you to have, food that was of reasonable quality, that was, stable. It wouldn't have any problems. It wouldn't rot or anything like that. Although they definitely had problems early on with the processing process, because it wasn't actually until the 1950s that they developed tin and aluminum rolling methods that would make the cans actually affordable for the actual person. Much like with microwave meals. Originally, the microwave meal was basically, hey, you want a hearty meal and you don't have the time? By the way, this thing will last like 30 fucking years in a landfill, so yeah, if there's a nuclear war, don't worry, you can still get your Salisbury steak. That was basically the premise behind that. A lot of the stuff that happened in the 50s and 60s really was about creating things that could be a surplus for survivors after a nuclear war. That's why suburban design is the way that it is. That's why suburban homes typically used light colors to reflect energy from nuclear blasts. They even have government reels about this. I said that once and some people didn't believe me and they're like, well, no, that's not true. They had a government circular about this. They tested it. In military tests, they were literally trying to decide what kind of lawn conditions, that's where you get your carefully manicured lawn, what kind of home conditions, etc., would lend themselves towards greater survivability if the nukes went off. It's literally nothing more. With regards to processed food, though, it is inherently bad for you. You should eat as little as possible. Now, does this mean you're going to die if you decide to get a ready meal on your way to work once in a while? No, it's not. Is it going to kill you if you have a Big Mac today? Probably not. Unless you got some pre-existing condition that you may or may not know about. And that nobody else needs to know about. Nobody cares. It's probably not going to kill you, but it's not, overall, it's not healthy for you. If you develop that kind of lifestyle where that's most of your diet, eventually it's going to take wear and tear on your body. It'd be the same as smoking a pack a day or something. Jim, any advice for getting your shit together in life? Also, thanks for making my mornings better at work with your vids. You're very welcome. Yeah, as usual, my advice is build one of your skills and try to drop a vice if you've got any that are holding you back. If you can just make that marginal implementation, you reap great rewards from that, actually. Spucko, they won't be satisfied till food lasts 200 years like in Fallout. Some of it seems to. I mean, they've got that one thing, like back in the 80s or something, they took a McDonald's burger and they just sort of put it in a case and they're like, oh, well, let's watch it decompose. And it never really decomposed. Still looks edible by McDonald's standards. It's not. I mean, by now it's basically nothing more than spongy cardboard, but it never rotted. In theory, it would still provide some caloric benefit and probably has so many preservatives in it that bacteria cannot grow on it. Which is pretty funny when you think about it. Last Beacon, until that particular comment, I agree. I believe that once they start to purge MAGA from conservatism, I believe that they'll start to reconfigure conservatism back to sort of a Bush mode. I don't think they'll be successful. They will try. I agree with you on that. I think that they're too far gone at this point. One tall order, Sticks. I can find some articles about it to send you, but you need to look into the Israel Farah document, U.S. Christian Church geofencing scandal. I think that I've heard of it, but yeah, if you can send that to me, I'll look more into it. One tall order. Also, they arrested someone accused of starting the Pacific Palisades fire. Yeah, someone who appears to have gone through a mental break in this particular case. That doesn't look like it was anything other than someone that was severely troubled, like loony. So that's probably a mental health issue. Inland Surfer, tobacco giant R.J. Reynolds has a vast processed food portfolio. I'm pretty sure their addiction scientists lent their know-how to create these desirable palatables. Oh, of course. They'd put crack in them if they could. Green Text Pro, join us Friday evening for a showing of Young Frankenstein on clankers.net. Don't you mean Frankenstein? 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Yeah, Young Frankenstein. That's another one that you have to do. Frankenstein. Yeah, that dude, he seems to have been troubled, considering some of the allegations against him from years past. It seems like he had a few screws loose in the head, so it might have been an accident too. I mean, this is still alleged. They're not sure that he's actually guilty at all. It looks like he might have, maybe they made a campfire, just got out of control, and then they just fled because they realized what they had done, trying to escape justice or something. It's not entirely clear. It's going to take more investigation on this particular case. It doesn't look like it was politically motivated or anything like that, though. It wouldn't make sense to start a forest fire for that kind of purpose anyway. So I have a feeling it was either a camping accident or just the dude flipped his lid. Just in, U.S. Senate gives final passage to a major piece of legislation that will unleash coal leases and oil and gas development 50 to 45, along partisan lines, obviously, undoing a Biden-era measure. It's already been passed by the House, on to President Trump's desk. Yes, indeed. HG Resolution 105. This considerably reduces the overhead burden of exploring for natural gas, exploring for oil, and exploring for coal. This is a Biden-era policy that was designed to throttle back the energy industry because he wanted to put the screws to the American people and make them suffer. Well, the people around him did. He didn't make the call. They probably didn't even show him the goddamn legislation before he auto-penned it. Trump is a drill baby drill sort of guy. At this particular moment in time, that's what we need. The climate change bullshit debacle, we can probably start ignoring that because it's absolute nonsense. It's not actual science. It's not science once you start to try to stanch out debate. Once you start to tell people they shouldn't even have an opinion or discuss an issue, and you're telling them that critical thinking is wrong, that's around the time that you know that something is wrong with regards to science and politics and pretty much everything else. Corporate decision-making and so forth. So I don't trust the so-called climate scientists at all because they keep giving me mixed messages and outdated data that's been cherry-picked and things like that. We need to just drill the goddamn oil, coal, and natural gas. We can do it more efficiently with less output. We can use it with less pollution than other countries that will gladly supply the same oil, coal, and natural gas anyway, but they will use it in a much less efficient manner. The U.S. has technology with regards to energy production that is not found, for example, in the developing world. We simply do. So when we burn coal, and there is no such thing as clean coal, so don't think that I'm becoming a coalmonger or something like that. But we are capable of using it in a more cleanly manner. In China, meanwhile, they put up a new coal power plant, every week or so, or two a week, or something like that, some insane number. Yeah, they're the emissions capital of the world, along with India. And the U.S. is a distant third, along with Europe in fourth. And yet we, flagellate ourselves on a regular basis and say, "Oh my God, my sins! I have hurt Mother Nature." While vast areas of the United States are actually reforesting at the moment. Green Text Pro, join us Friday evening for a showing. Oh, I already read that one. Burp. Last Beacon, I liked both the original and the remake, especially with Nicolas Cage saying, "Not the bees." Definitely meme-worthy. Copium, why doesn't the U statue have its pirate hat on? You said it wears the hat when you do. Oh, yeah. Well, I gotta find the hat because it fell down below the chair. Last Beacon, I know the remake is kind of hit or miss, but Nicolas Cage does provide a meme-worthy performance of him screaming about bees. Yeah, but that's basically the only thing that the movie was good for. Not the bees! He's a serial overactor, by the way. Sort of like in Troll 2. Oh my god! Yeah, so we're going to have more energy soon. There will be a lag on it, so it'll take, months or years for it to actually have any meaningful impact. But we're hoping to get back to that point we were in, 2019 or thereabouts, when the U.S. became for the first time a net energy exporter and was self-sufficient with regards to its energy at the same time. We've never accomplished that before. We've shown that it's possible to do so. We just need to make up for lost time now because of the stupidity of Bidenomics. If we can make sure that that actually happens, and, if you're incentivizing it, it probably will, then you can look for lower prices at the gas pump, lower prices when you fuel up your home, lower prices on natural gas, and so forth. Lower prices on coal. There are still people that use it, and of course it is still used in power plants. Those savings will be passed on to consumers, lowering cost. Oil and gas especially, and biodiesel, I suppose, are a big thing, by the way, because every time that you create a good at one location and want to send it elsewhere, you need a distribution system. For that, you need fuel to get it from point A to point B, and often to point C, maybe even D. So, because of that, this will trickle down, to use the colloquial term, quite easily, I believe. I think that it's a good thing. Copium Poppies, if you can't find the mini hat, you gotta lose your big hat, just saying. Yeah, maybe in the next stream. I just find it funny. I like being piratical. Frisk sent $5. No comment, thank you. Yeah, natural gas is one of the energies of the future, definitely. They used to burn it off, actually. They would drill for oil, natural gas would come up out, and then you'd have those flames on top of the extraction station, the rig, and they would just burn it. I believe that they did that specifically to help draw up more oil more quickly. Then they realized how valuable the natural gas was, and they said, maybe we should be rethinking this. Anthony Way, have you seen Freddy versus Jason? I think I did, but it was a long time ago, so I don't really remember much. I remember that Jason wins in the end, if I remember correctly, and sends Freddy Krueger back to hell or something. I love reading the comments. Sometimes I get distracted by reading because it's so funny sometimes. Kamala Harris takes apparent shot at Trump admin in bizarre outburst. These motherfuckers are crazy. Of course, she's released her book, which supposedly is a bestseller. Here's a question. How many of the copies of Kamala's book do you think were purchased by shell companies in China to drive up the ratings in order to make her look more popular than she actually is? How many of those copies do you think were sold in China? I have a feeling it's many of them. Probably a double-digit proportion, possibly even more than half. The fact is, nobody wants to hear Kamala's whining. She's got a small core fan base of people that are obsessed with the idea of having a vagina in the White House, and they don't really care about anything else. And then there are partisan Democrats, they'll put it on their bookshelf and then never read it, basically. the NPR cup sweater-wearing liberals that turned down their thermostat a couple of degrees to save the world from becoming basically a giant desert. That's the only cohort that she has that really gives a shit about what she has to say. Like, I'm not going to read her fucking book. Yeah, I've got better things to do with my time. I've got a million books. I would rather not read again than have to read Kamala's book. And just sit there and garden weasel my pubes or something. It'd be more entertaining. There's so much about this moment that is making people feel like they've lost their minds, much like Kamala has long ago. When in fact, these motherfuckers are crazy, Harris said Monday during an event in Los Angeles called A Day of Unreasonable Conversation. What great sloganing, by the way. The comment, which did not identify the Trump administration directly, earned applause from attendees, according to footage of the clip. Of course it did. I call this the Freedom Tour, she added, according to The Hollywood Reporter. One of the reasons I wrote it is history going to write about this, and it was important to me that it be told with my voice being present, she said. She's very interested in her own voice, you may notice. And I would say that anyone, we are living history right now, and you as storytellers are living this. You're not passive observers, you know that. You're living it. And I'm going to ask you that all the emotions that we are feeling, give those emotions, give that experience to those people that you're writing about and writing for. It gets back to my point about helping people just put a label on it, even if it doesn't change the circumstance. She continued before dropping the line that leaders of the current political climate are crazy. Now, can you please go through that? I like linguistics. Go through that particular paragraph. Do you even know what she's saying? Because I'm not even sure what meaning she's trying to convey. I'm going to ask you that all the emotions we are feeling, give those emotions, give that experience to those people that you are writing about and writing for. It gets back to my point about helping people. Just put a label on it, even if it doesn't change the circumstance. What are you suggesting people do? Give your emotions to the people that you're writing for and put labels on things, I guess? I mean, I don't even know what she's talking about. She's calling other people crazy, and look at the weird shit that she says. I almost said that he says. I don't want to, provide anyone any unwanted pronouns, so, I have... And she's done this before. Like, she'll make a speech, or she'll, quip to a reporter or something. It's like, unburdened by the burdens of burden, or it's just weird stuff. It doesn't even make sense. It's like she's trying to create a poignant slogan, but she can't really find the words or something like that. She just doesn't understand how to actually convey the point properly. Very strange. Bobby Bobinson, Sticks, would you rather port Kamala or Greta? I'll go with Thunberg because at least she's not hideously deformed. I imagine if you bring Greta Thunberg to orgasm, she'll make weird faces, so that might be a turn-off, though. P59 Cuban, have you watched Haxen? Yes, Witchcraft Through the Ages. It is a 1922 Swedish-Danish silent horror film documenting witchcraft through the ages. Yes, and thank you, actually, for reminding me of that, because I wanted to... you can watch it free online, because it's like 100 years old. I actually did want to watch that. Book, if sunlight prevented scurvy, we would never have had limeys. Yeah, back on pirate ships and shit like that, they usually kept an accompaniment of citrus fruits. Couldn't have been that bad. Salt pork, I don't know how it tastes. I'm assuming salty. I'm pretty sure that they usually soaked it before eating it. And then you would take, like, the salty brine, you could use that for other things, like, put some vegetables in it or some shit. Lemon Curd Zero, Sticks, the worst comedian of all time was Lucille Ball. Prove me wrong. I like Lucille Ball. I don't understand. Calico Jack, I went on a carnivore diet and got scurvy. I gave it up when my teeth got wobbly. I enjoy citrus a lot. Like, I put lemon, like, I'll put it in seltzer. Like, I've got some of this Adirondack. It's cherry vanilla. It's just a seltzer water. And it's really good. And then you can, you can put lime in it or whatever. This one, the vanilla one, I'm not as big a fan of. I like the raspberry one best. But you just shoot some lemon juice up in there or some lime juice, and it's pretty good. I used to suck on limes as a kid, actually. Like, and that was back when they were cheap as like 10 cents per lime. Try finding that deal these days. Ha. Snakes bleed red. All they had to do is peel up some of the wood the boat was made of and boil it. They would have had all the vitamin C they needed, but they didn't know. Yeah, I don't think you want to grind away chunks of your own boat just for an energy drink, though. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know. I liked Lucille Ball. At least back in the day. I mean, I haven't seen that show in a very long time. Nolt, Disney fabulous Jimmy Kimmel's ratings return to suck status. Who could have possibly predicted this, by the way? Jimmy Kimmel managed to get more viewers than normal right after he was shit-canned there for a while. Now he has settled back down to exactly where he was before, and this is going to be a fucking problem with him. We're not even sure he's going to get his contract renewed. And that's probably not, because his ratings are so abysmally poor, because he only has one joke that he tells over and over for the entire duration of the show. Orange Man touched his pee-pee today. Orange Man made big ol' poo-poo stinky doo-doo caca. Orange Man lunatic. Orange Man fascist. Basically retarded Hitler. That's funny for a while, and it has its place, but after a while, you sort of exhausted that particular avenue of jokes. It's like when you drill into the earth looking for dwarven gold or something like that. Well, this gold seam is empty. Yeah, we can pick away at the handful of remnants there and maybe kind of sort of scrape by, or we can try to find some new material to actually mine. Kimmel and Fallon and Colbert and all these others are hemorrhaging money for these networks. The only reason that they're even kept there is because, number one, name recognition, simply to have them there. And number two, simply because it's DEI, basically. They're getting that money covered by, NGOs that are linked to the government and are capable of embezzling taxpayer money in order to pay these miscreant retards for literally no talent whatsoever. Dude, there are plenty of friggin' streamers online that pull in ratings considerably higher than this. That pull in considerably more views. It's not even that difficult for some of these people. The legacy media and its so-called comedic attaché are simply being replaced. Kimmel's not funny anymore. Fallon's not funny anymore. Colbert hasn't been funny in a decade. Oh well, there's a reason why he got canceled off of his show. Yeah, and keep in mind, Colbert was drawing in hundreds of thousands more people in his slot than Kimmel is. So Kimmel's writing is probably on the wall. I have a feeling at some point they're going to have no purpose to keep him on there, because even if they want to spread propaganda and they're getting the bills paid so the lights stay on, what benefit is it? It's basically a zero-sum game. At some point, it's just basically they've got the prestige of having Jimmy Kimmel on their network. Wow, what a great accomplishment. Yeah, you have to get like $50 million a year in taxpayer money in order to be solvent. But don't worry, there's still lots of shadowy NGOs out there through government no-bid contracts and grants and things like that that are capable of funding you. It's because money is fungible. Most people need to learn what that term means. Then you'll realize exactly why everything is a shakedown and a grift. Frisk, thoughts on the Ambler Road project being revived? I haven't heard of it. So I'll give you my thoughts in a moment. Trump orders approval of 211-mile mining road through Alaska wilderness. Reversing Biden administration's rejection. The proposed road being developed by Alaska's state-owned investment bank would open access to a mining region in northwest Alaska. Mine it, There's nothing else going on up there. It's fucking Alaska. I believe in environmentalism. Environmentalism is you planted a tree, you picked up some trash, you made your garden organic, stuff like that. You stopped using chemicals on your lawn and started growing perennials for all the cute butterflies and moths and shit like that. Get the fucking minerals. Grab the fucking minerals. Be as greedy as dwarves, in Lord of the Rings or something like that. We're going to grab all the minerals. And have all the lithium and all the silver and everything else. By the way, I've got a silver doubloon coming, actually, from a subscriber. I can't wait to show it off. Turtles Toy Box. I wonder what the world record for the longest piss is. I bet that was 2 minutes. Unreal. That would be something interesting to research, if you're into researching such things. Yeah, just dig out the goddamn minerals. I mean, we're going to refine them more efficiently. We're going to use them more cheaply. They're going to be higher quality. We don't have to worry about crazy shit ending up melted into, whatever, minerals or metals or whatever we're extracting, like you do if you import from China and stuff like that. Apparently, a subscriber actually sent me something. Apparently, lead that was poured prior to nuclear testing, which has almost no background radiation in it, is sold at a massive premium. I did not know this. I'm assuming that there's some sort of specific purpose to needing to use that. But that things that were made over 100 years ago, they have a premium for a reason because they weren't there for nuclear testing, prior to being cast and stuff like that. Makes sense, though. For some, scientific stuff, you want as little radiation as possible in your instruments, I suppose. Joey D. Rare earths are plentiful. Refining is a horrific process. Yeah, I remember when Japan, actually, they found an enormous, highly concentrated reserve of various rare earth minerals offshore. And they put a ship out there with a giant vacuum to suck up the slurry in order to refine it, actually. And I can't remember the evaluation of the value, but I think they're still extracting it now. And then the Chinese were trying to claim it was in their waters, and Japan's like, no, it's not. Nope. This is ours. Hands off the minerals. David Larson. Steel from sunken ships from World War II are often used in medical and scientific equipment for that reason. Yeah, I never knew that until recently, so thank you for everyone who's elucidating this. I had no clue. It's actually fascinating when you think about it. They used to use, back in the 50s, they used to use uranium glaze on plates and bowls and stuff like that. Kindar, sticks, don't wear glasses. If you can't see, it's weakening your eyes. No, my glasses allow me to actually see anything. I've got very poor vision. Thankfully, it hasn't gotten worse for some time. For a while, I had to change the prescription every other year. Now, I've used the same prescription for almost a decade, and it's not noticeable. There's no difference. They can go back in the other direction, too, over time. I would like to get LASIK, actually, at some point, so I don't have to wear glasses. This would make a lot of things easier, like wearing a gas mask. Or, looking fucking cool. I do like having glasses, but it would be funny to make more than 1 or 2 videos where I've got them off. In fact, I think one of the only videos I ever did without glasses on was one of the Halloween videos that I made, and that was back in 2014 or something. I got kind of gothed up, and I said, I'm going to take my glasses off, record a few videos. It was funny. Yeah, let's get to this last article as well. Then we'll probably end up talking about military rations more. Biased online images train AI bots to see women as younger and less experienced. A study tracks how online age gaps between men and women shape AI's perception of employees. There are some problems with this. You're making a subjective judgment on what would classify something within an image as young versus old, as less versus more experienced. It could have to do with clothing, surroundings, gestures, the gesticulation of a person, and so forth. So it really is not that much of a study. It's really just tinkering with AI more than anything else. Also, I fail to see the problem. I don't understand why it would be necessary to try to tinker with it. In the process of tinkering with things, usually they are made worse. If they're working well enough as is, then there's nothing. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, basically. Much like when government gets involved with private matters and typically makes them worse and more onerous, more expensive, less efficient, certainly less time efficient, and so forth, if you end up with researchers and corporatists getting involved with AI and trying to tinker with it to get a different result, so to speak, that could be a problem. And this has been a thing that they've rambled about for a long time. Do you remember when facial recognition first started becoming, more of a big thing? And they were worried because they're like, oh my God, it has a harder time telling that the black person is this person as opposed to the white person. And really all it is about shadows and coloration more than anything else. It has nothing to do with some intrinsic bias. It has to do with technological limitations. But they made a big fuss about it. And, the problem's been generally solved now, just like this one will be as well. If you want to put in an AI prompt and generate an image of a strong, empowered woman or something like that, you'll be able to do so. AI is still in its infancy. What they're trying to do, here's my theory. I think the powers that be are very, very worried. They're very, very worried that AI will end up in the hands of the little people and in the hands of maybe corporate groups, tech groups, that they don't happen to agree with, and that this will empower people. So they're trying to preemptively make people afraid of AI and say, oh, it's going to take your jobs. Bernie Sanders' op-ed the other day, it was basically, they're taking her jobs, only it was about robots and AI instead of brown people. I thought that was amusing and highly ironic. They're trying to create those guardrails and stuff so they can control it. They just want to control AI because they know how powerful it is. Just like they've tried to control crypto. Just like they tried to control the internet. Just like they tried to control radio and television and everything else under the sun. Any method by which people can communicate meaning to one another, whether it's verbal or not, the government definitely wants control of it. That's what I see here. It's trying to insinuate, oh, women are being misrepresented by AI systems. Well, that's not true. And if you look at certain professional positions, women actually outflank men. Like, for instance, in medicine. Women are ahead of men in medicine. Men are ahead of women in going into a fucking coal mine. Or, ripping apart plumbing to install a new toilet. It's definitely a man's world. It's totally a patriarchy. Personally, I think that AI shouldn't have any guardrails. It should be able to be used for anything. And it's inevitable that this will happen. And then it's inevitable that the government will try to clamp down on that through legislation. Because people are going to use it for things that the general public will consider nefarious, like making fake images of underage girls or something like that. Which I think, unfortunately, they have this lowly bullshit. They've already got that, so it's only a matter of time. You can't really contain that kind of technology, though. What will inevitably happen with AI is the same as what has happened with the internet. It'll become corporatized, very much for profit, and it will slowly become less and less usable to the average person because it'll simply be geared towards making money. It'll no longer be about creativity for creativity's purposes. It'll be just about getting a paycheck. That's what'll happen with AI. It'll happen in the next 10 years. It'll be the same timeline we saw with the internet or with crypto. They've done it with crypto. Corporations will accept crypto. Many banks dabble with crypto. There's investments into crypto. Is it really as usable, or as fun, by the way, as it was in the early days? No, it's not. Same will prove true of the internet at large. What we really need is a second internet. What we need to do is create a mesh system or something like that, and the technology is basically there, so that people can bypass government 100%, they can bypass bureaucracy 100%, they can bypass ads and everything else 100%, and simply share information among one another. That's what really needs to be done. We still need more progress technologically, but it is possible to do so. Ooh, book. Ham radio internet would be the tits. Go to Utwente's shortwave site. You can get any shortwave band in the world with their... I lived only a few miles away from the university that hosted the enormous loop antenna that they've got that I was listening to back during that one crisis. I think it was 2012, I think it was, or 2013. You remember when North Korea was threatening the Japanese? And they looked like they might haul off, and there were Patriot missile batteries put up in Tokyo and stuff like that. Yeah, we on 4chan, it was the Sky King meme. Yeah, that was from that. And they closed down the chat, actually, on the actual radio page because people were saying the most zany shit ever. It was a great time, let me tell you. I'm glad that I was there. It was amazing. Shadow Sonata. AI is just a search engine, data scraper, chatbot compiler, and assembly program. Well, it's a little bit more complex than that. And it is making leaps and bounds. I mean, from you remember when Google had that thing where you could run images through it and then have it imagine other shit? I can't remember what it was called. I don't even know if it exists anymore. That was basically the first step into that. AI learning, machine learning, I think they called it. But then it's gotten better and better with each iteration, like Grok now, and Grok is not even one of the more advanced AI systems, is light years better than it was a couple of months ago, basically. It just gets more and more advanced. The best thing about AI is it can train itself, too, now, so it's going to be going deeper and deeper. People are mentioning Art Bell. Art Bell was cool. He had Politis there from Missing 411 on there at one point, I believe. That was a good one. I've got one of his books, but I was trying to get the original Missing 411, but I couldn't find it. So I got a different one, and I thought that it was the original, but it was actually, I think, number 5. It was with hunters and stuff like that specifically. Fascinating book, actually. You should definitely read it. Snakes Bleed Red. I wish Review Bra and Styx would do a ham radio show together. That'd be fun. I love ham radio. Let's see. Oh, we might have new news stories loaded in now. Oh yeah, we do, but most of it's gonna be about Gaza. Most of it's going to be about the very preliminary, but still substantial, deal with regards to Israel and Gaza, to try to preferably keep more people from dying. ICE propaganda campaign goes into overdrive. Is this a left-wing article or a right-wing article? We shall see. The Bulwark. I'm not familiar with you, so I don't know how you lean. MAGA commentators are stepping up as soldiers in Trump's culture war to provoke confrontations against Antifa with the backing of DHS. What's the problem? Yeah, I'm not sure that I give a shit if Antifa gets confronted. I think that people should travel in larger groups, and then they should just ignore the Antifa members because they're not going to dare to do jack shit if they're outnumbered. We've seen this before. They're as passive as little babies if they're alone. And they're pretty passive in small groups, too. It's only when they mass together by the dozens or hundreds that they really do anything, because they're pussies. I mean, they're a bunch of cowards. They're pathetic. They're Hassan Piker fans, so to speak. They're Vaush fans. They probably don't like him because I think didn't he go tanky mode or some shit like that? I don't even know at this point. Most of these people have become completely irrelevant. And you got to realize there's some burly former Army Ranger who's 350 pounds that could bench press, 2 Antifa members at the same time really easily. So they tend to be more passive unless they, unless they can Zerg rush, basically. If they can do a Zerg rush, then they become very violent. Otherwise, they prefer to make pipe bombs or something like that. Like Obama's people did back in the 1970s with the Weather Underground, by the way. Mom Donnie courts the cops. Yeah, that'll go over really well. Oh yeah, have you seen that? In closing here, I'll go offline in a minute here. But have you seen that Mamdani over in New York City, the communist would-be mayor, he's actually trying to get like the police on board with his plans? And he's totally shifted on his messaging. He's like, well, I really love our cops. I just think that we need more reform and stupid shit like this. It's hilarious. It's not going to work either. I don't even know what he's doing. He's quite clearly won, against... He's going to win. He will be the next mayor, which is unfortunate for everyone in New York City, but it's actually, ironically, very fortunate for the nation as a total. He will fail, because he will either follow through and the policies will be bullshit, and so he'll fail. Or he won't, the left will abandon him, he gets primaried out next time, and it's an embarrassment, and he fails. There's no other alternative, though one of these two situations will almost certainly happen. Cuomo does not have the numbers to front against Mamdani. I think the mail just came. So nobody can really stop him. There's nothing to be done about it. So Mamdani probably will be in there. It'd be really funny. And I'm going to, by the way, very much enjoy election night. When Mamdani is minted, it's going to be some breaking news. I might even do a live stream for that one. Oh yeah, Mamdani, the socialist, is now in control of New York City. Enjoy, everyone. I'm sure you'll have a great time. He won't wreck the economy, pass new taxes, or actually be crazy enough to start government-funded stores where he totally claims that they won't compete with private industry or anything like that. No, he's not. They're not going to compete. They'll complement. How this is going to happen remains entirely to be seen. One tall order. Stick sent you a link with the Israel story on Twitter. Oh yeah, I'll check that out after the live stream. Thank you. Apocalypse, wow. Mamdani is a socialist, Pied Piper for the Dems. But he's actually a commie. He's not a socialist like in the garden variety, more innocuous sense, which is just a stepping stone towards communism, but there's some semblance of sanity left. It's sort of like, Smeagol, after he tells the ring basically to get out of his head. He's not sane. He's still inclined towards pure evil and egotism and all sorts of other terrible, nasty things. But for a little while, he's like, kind of with it. He's kind of got a mentality of normal proportions. That's been, and then full-blown golem that tries to kill everything in its path. That would be communism. But they're still both Gollum. My precious! The precious is any food that happens to be lying around, because under communism and socialism you get very little of it. At least the obesity problem would be tackled. And then you've got the tuberculosis outbreak that comes with all the malnutrition you'll get, but, whatever. Now, Mamdani is, he's nuts. And the proposals that he's made don't really make sense. They've been tried before. They have failed before, universally. There's not been an instance, as far as to my knowledge, over the course of human history where the kind of programs that he seeks to incept have actually uplifted anyone. They'll keep some people at the very bottom on life support, but they're already on life support. So it's not really helping them. Instead of having one meal today, they had one meal and a snack. Wow, what a huge improvement. All it's going to do is bring down everyone else. It'll make the middle class miserable, raise prices for them and the working class. It'll cause people who are more wealthy to flee the state, as they have been anyway. This will double the problem, which means that investment is taken out of the state of New York. Why would you want to be there? I don't understand why anyone would want to live in New York City. I've been there. I did have a good time there, but I don't understand why you'd want to live there, considering the massive regulatory burden, the enormous amount of cost of living and taxes, the enormous amount of bureaucracy to literally do anything, like put up a tent in your backyard. You wait 14 days for a tax sticker and a certificate saying that you're allowed to put a tent in your backyard. That's basically how New York City is. It's very, very highly regulated. Mamdani thinks that more of the same is going to massively improve the lot of the people that live there. Well, it won't. We've tried this before. It doesn't work. Fragile Wolf, in Soviet Russia, tuberculosis is considered a vegetable. No, tuber. I get it, tuber. I'll get the reference. Apocalypse, wow. But I'm not sure he'll actually implement his ideas. He'll just become a good establishment stooge like AOC became. Yeah, but that's the wonderful part of it. If he becomes an establishment stooge, all the leftoids that piled on his campaign aren't going to back him again, because they're getting sick of that sort of treatment by the Democratic Party. So if he cucks out and he doesn't follow through with his failed policies, they'll still be failed policies because he'll be out on his ass. I can't imagine a communist like Mamdani is not capable of delivering the kind of change that would be needed in a city like New York. So he will fail. This is inevitable. I give a 100% chance of his abysmal failure and probably single-termerism, which is good. It'll be egg on the face of the Democratic Party. And by the way, this will give a brief window of opportunity to Democrats that are more on the sane side. And I hate to give him credit for being less insane at the very least. I can't call him sane, but I can say less insane. People like Fetterman or Manchin. They're warning about it, and they're going to get to say, told you so. So there will be a brief opportunity where somebody from the more Union Dem side might be able to say, okay, enough is enough. The party has gone off the rails. We need to do some soul searching. We need to understand why the American people are telling us that we suck. And so here's my candidacy for president or something. That might be your dark horse candidate in 2028. A Democrat that actually has working neurons could very easily rise up, assuming that the left collapses as badly as I think that they will. I do not believe that Mamdani is capable of delivering for the people of New York City. Not even close. If anything, it'll cause rolling unemployment and business closures and more crime and things like that. That'll go over real well with the voting population. New York is only a few hairs width at this point from becoming a swing state. The Democrats have literally fucked up that bad. Somehow, they managed to make it work. Reinhold, I agree with you. I do believe that the first female president will be a Republican. It's possible that it'll be Tulsi Gabbard, depending on what happens with the Trump administration. And the problem is, there aren't many talented females in the Democratic Party, because they all got there as DEI hires. Republican females typically, they were, in many cases, they were DAs and stuff like that, so they were already doing public work. So they were already trying their best and actually managed to work their way up through at least a quasi-meritocratic system. In the Democratic Party, it's more like if you're the black lesbian dwarf, then you're not allowed to be denied the job. You have to be nominated. You have to be appointed. Because otherwise the person hates you because you're black and you like chicks and you're short. And so you end up with people that are less qualified. And this shows. Just look at Kamala. Why do you think she was fucking chosen as running mate? It wasn't because Biden liked her. He didn't even want her to be running mate. He had no choice. He was told, look, you're an old white straight male dude, so you're going to have to choose somebody who's exotic, who's young. I mean, she's in her 50s, but that qualifies as young in Congress and places like that. You have to choose her, because otherwise you will lose. I mean, he technically still did lose, although they like to put their heads in the sand and say that he won fair and square, which is bullshit and everyone knows it, but whatever. By the way, I think I pulled a tendon in my left leg or something. I've got this one spot on my tendon on my left leg right below the knee that really hurts. I don't know what I did to it. And keep in mind, there are plenty of dumb Republicans, too. Most of them, in fact. I personally don't like partisan politics. That's why I can never be a Republican. Republicans like to lose. I can't be a Democrat because at this point they like to lose too, so I don't know exactly what's happening. Used to be they were the evil party and the Republicans were the stupid party. Now the Democrats are evil and stupid. The Republicans are a little bit less stupid, becoming slightly more evil on the uniparty side. MAGA's trying to hold the line, but then they get embattled by the neocons. It's just a very weird political situation. Extremely strange. Set condition. She blew her way in. Yeah, Willie Brown there. Kamala, I guess back then at least, she could give a mean blowjob since she worked her way up through the ranks so quickly. These days, she'd be doing it with dentures, I suppose. And keep in mind, this was the woman who, her claim to fame was one reasonable debate performance. And a lot of people were saying, oh my god, she's going to be the nominee. And I told them, calm the fuck down. She's not going to be the goddamn nominee. The Democratic Party is far too racist to want another black candidate. She might get uppity, like Obama. So that's not going to happen. And I predicted it would be Biden. It was Biden. But the reason that she was chosen, despite the fact that she dropped off to zero, dropped off the face of the earth, was simply because of the color of her skin and what was between her legs. Wonder if Biden ever fucked Kamala Harris. Probably did. He probably had to apply a lot of lube down there. I can't imagine that that's been functioning in a decade. Not that he cares. I mean, if he can't get it up. He just takes the Viagra, crushes it up, and liquefies it into a solution, then injects it directly into his veins. Bristolian, the Bulwark is Bill Kristol's rag. Oh, I wasn't aware. Yeah, we're gonna shoot up some dope, man. It's Viagra. We're gonna be going all night. Joe Biden's crenellated, crust-covered cock. Turtle's Toy Box. I would be more apt to give Kamala a job if she didn't try to suck my dick. Yeah, that's a good point. Be like, okay, you've got the job. Just leave me alone. No. Yeah, Mom Donnie courting the cops. In fact, I'm gonna load this up for tomorrow. I'm gonna look more into this after the live stream because that's insane. I don't know what he's doing. It's like you're already way out ahead. You don't even need to make appearances at this point. The election is basically over at this point. You've already got it in the bag. All you have to do is do meet and greets with your core fans, keep them enthused. Cuomo can't beat you. Why are you coming out and very, very... he must be anxious. He's like, well, I don't know if my core fans are really going to like the fact that I'm trying to wine and dine the cops, because a lot of them really hate them and want to kill them. I don't know exactly what he's doing. We won't stand for Trump scapegoating Chicago. Interesting. Oh, yeah, this is one of those ICE-related articles. People have a real problem with ICE until Tren de Aragua takes over their block. But I noticed that the people that are having a problem with ICE, they live in blocks that aren't being taken over because they're in the lily-white suburbs with private security, or they're in a penthouse or something. So they don't have to worry about being in the projects. They don't have to worry about drug dealers and human traffickers taking over their home. There was a case in the Netherlands, actually, years ago. A bunch of drug dealers and traffickers had taken over a couple of apartment complexes in Balmermeer. Now, Balmermeer, within Amsterdam proper, is sort of the lower to working class area. Now, I didn't consider it dicey because I lived in Tampa. I've seen other places that are far more dicey, so I would have been perfectly fine walking down the street at night alone and unarmed. Basically the worst thing you're going to see is, hey, you want to buy some drugs? Hey, honey, you want to spin? And stuff like that. This is the classic sort of like, kind of ghetto sort of thing. Not a lot of violence, though. But several gangs had taken over entire apartment complexes, and they were using the basements to pimp out like 12-year-old girls and stuff like that. And they busted them. They took care of the problem. I would notice that in the Netherlands, people generally seem to have been accepting of this having happened and said, okay, you rescued children. You got rid of a bunch of people that were selling like crack and fentanyl. This is a good thing. In the United States, though, you have a political cohort, the leftoids, that are so messed up at this point that because Orange Man bad, they would rather live with Tren de Aragua or the Sinaloa cartel in the basement of their apartment building than simply admit that local and state forces are no longer competent to take care of the problem and that federal forces are going to be needed in order to clean them out. Because, of course, it has nothing to do with anything but race. It's just racism. Yeah, and it's really sad because it's like people in the United States. I like to think that people are generally reasonably intelligent. What's wrong with clearing out a bunch of traffickers and stuff? And yeah, okay, they're pimping out a 12-year-old kid. How dare you detain them? This makes sense, I guess, in their minds. It does not make sense in mine. Kindar, Rand Paul quoting Davy Crockett on giving the people's money. Hashtag shorts. Yeah, I can't remember what year that was. Let me check that. Let's see. When was that? Oh yeah, by the way, there was an airplane crash in Balmermere in 1992. I remember hearing about that. Let's see. Yeah, it slammed into the side of subsidized housing and ripped the side right off of it, if I remember correctly. I'll have to look that up more later. But yeah, they were pimping kids and stuff like that and selling drugs. And of course, virtually none of these people were actually ethnically Dutch. I'm just going to point that out. I will leave the rest to you. Big surprise there. Yeah, the Dutch are like, yeah, I've got plenty of weed. I don't need your fucking crack. I've got weed and Heineken. Yeah, no, Andrews, I don't think it was Moroccans on that particular occasion, actually. But, yeah, I mean, you've got all sorts of problems. Tom Pumpkin Carver. When I was in high school, I handed out condoms to people at a party that I poked holes in. 7 girls got pregnant. You might not want to admit to that sort of thing, assuming that it's actually true, because, hashtag me too, there's no longer apparently a statute of limitations on certain crimes. Press X to doubt, though. Crispy Sticks, thoughts on Bondi? I think that she's trying, but she's not trying hard enough. I think that the Bondi is, if not compromised, at the very least, maybe just doesn't quite know what she's doing, so to speak. My hope is that she improves. Like Patel with the Epstein file thing saying, well, there was no blackmail risk. Bullshit. Of course there's a blackmail list. You should have just released all this stuff already unredacted, just to put egg on the face of the liberals. But you failed to do that. And Trump should get more centrally involved with that, by the way, and take Patel and Bongino aside and say, look, you're going to release the files. Here's your timeline. Fucking do it. I don't care if you have to ignore everything else that you're supposed to be doing. Ignore them, delegate them, get the fucking files out there. I guarantee there would be so many commentators out there that would be absolutely gobsmacked by what they see. That being said, Patel has made a number of wise decisions since then. It shows that he's capable of being rational and sane. It doesn't show that he's capable of being quite what I had hoped that he would be. Zeldin, great job. Stefanik, great job. Tulsi, great job. RFK Jr., great job. Marco Rubio, great job. A lot of the people that Trump has chosen are doing really well, actually. Some better than others and some more unexpected than others. I never expected that Marco Rubio would be a particularly formidable Secretary of State. He's actually done a good job. But then you have Patel and Bongino and Bondi, and it's like, okay, you're basically, what are you doing? Jostling for a C minus? When, some of your cohorts here are getting, A's and B's? Because that seems to be the case. I give Zeldin an A. He's done a great job. I give RFK Jr. an A. I'll give Tulsi a B+, along with Marco Rubio. He gets a B+. And Stefanik, I'll give a B. So all of them, they're doing pretty well. With Patel and Bongino, I have to give them Mercy D's. And with Bondi as well. I have to give them Mercy D's. Marco Rubio may have redeemed himself to the point where he actually mounts another presidential bid in the future. Which would be fucking hilarious. Can you imagine? Imagine he becomes nominee, And his opponent, all they do is they do the little Marco big hands sort of thing, and they just post that ad nauseum forever. Copium poppies. It's not Bongino, it's Bongino. Yeah, I don't give a fuck. He pronounced his name regularly on his show. There was literally no debate on how his name is pronounced. Well, I'm going to call him Bongino because I can. I'm just not, I mean, as a commentator, it's pretty funny and stuff. But he gets into this particular role under Kash Patel, and then all they do is they double team the idea that, no, Epstein trafficked people to nobody at all. We have no client list. We have no blackmail list. We have no flight logs. We have no anything. Bondi can't even confirm or deny whether she even had the fucking papers on her desk. This is a travesty. We deserve more information about what the hell happened. I think that the American people should demand it. I don't give a fuck if Trump is running the administration. I don't give a shit. The fact that I support Trump and many of the people around him doesn't mean that I have to support these fuckers. So, yeah. Kindar, we should pay Sierra Leone to take them back. We should just buy Sierra Leone. That would be funny. Let's rebuy Sierra Leone, Guinea, and Liberia and create a territory. Why not? We've got the resources for it. Will Gooding, Sticks, did you know that H.P. Lovecraft mentions Rutland, Vermont in his tale, The Whisper in Darkness? Also Brattleboro, I believe. One of my faves. I never knew that the legendary John Deere of John Deere train was from Rutland as well. So awesome. Yes, indeed. And that is a very funny story. John Deere, the one that makes one of the most ubiquitous tractors in the whole goddamn world, he was indeed born here in Rutland. I think a little bit northwest, exactly. He very quickly decided that Vermont was not the place to do business and moved, if I remember correctly, to Illinois. Or was it Iowa? It was one of those Midwestern states, one of them. And then began selling tractors and other farm equipment. He wasn't selling black people. That I believe had already passed by then. I think that, yeah, John Deere, he made his heyday later. I think he made his heyday later, actually, in the 1800s, if I remember correctly. Yeah, he wasn't even born until 1804. Yeah, it was in the 1840s, so, I mean, he might have sold antique farming equipment as well. We're not 100% sure. But, yeah, I mean, it was a good idea at the time. He got out of Vermont, like everyone else who is skilled or educated in this state, and went elsewhere for greener pastures. Vermont will give you a great education and great training that you will use elsewhere. That's why Vermont is basically the boonies more than anything else. I still love it, though. I don't want to leave. About the only place I've considered seriously moving to is Port Isabel, down in southern Texas. Imagine that you're a 2-minute drive away from a literal tropical paradise in the Caribbean, but your rent is like $700 a month. For a small home, actually. Not something fancy, of course, but it's better than a studio apartment, you know? You save a lot of money down there. And you get Mexican food. Bystander syndrome. The only D's I'm willing to give Pam Bondi is this pork D and D's nuts. Yeah, 1836, yeah. He left Vermont because, of course, what the fuck are you going to do in Vermont with your plows and tractors and stuff like that? Which reminds me, I need to play Oregon Trail later. I don't know which I'm going to play as this time. I don't want to do super hard mode because for some reason I got all the way to my destination on super hard mode. But the last time I played as a pharmacist, I injured myself in a hunting accident, got sepsis, and died from that. Then the next time I went as a carpenter, I had another hunting accident, and I just fucking died. I just blew my own head off accidentally, apparently, or something like that. The remake of the game, the updated edition, definitely makes it a little bit more dangerous to hunt. Yeah, I've thought about moving back to Texas. We've got a John Deere. I think everyone has a John Deere. Anyways, I'm going to go offline now. I've got to go and docket more news for tomorrow. I probably will play some Oregon Trail. I want to relax for a little while because tomorrow is Friday. You know, I'm allowed to have a little bit of time off. I've also got to write some more entries in Morbid Stories. We are flying through it, by the way. I've got almost 290 pages done, actually, of 355, which is the planned length. Trying to space it out so it uses exactly the same trim as the last one. So I'm moving towards through one section, and then there's two more. Once I splice off the sarcastic ads, which is going to go in a totally separate work, by the way, a shorter work, which I think you'll find it very funny, by the way. I know that I do. It should be close, and then I'm going to have the morbid haikus, and I thought about putting like a longer-ish sort story in there. I'm not 100% sure yet, though, so I'm going to see what I'm going to do with the manuscript. It's still very much up in the air. I've got all sorts of orphan files and stuff like that with ideas, notes, and everything else. I've got, you know, sheet after sheet of Morbid Stories ideas actually in the room. I think there's probably 120 entries or something. I might even have to parse it down, actually, just to put it plainly. So, yeah, I'm going to go offline, and yeah, it's going to be a fun time had by all with more morbid literature, hopefully available before Halloween. I'm really hoping that I can cram it down as quickly as possible. If not, I will splice off the sarcastic ads, and I'll try to get that out ahead of Halloween, too, because some of that is, like, it's sarcastic humor with a lot of, like, morbid and crazy edge, a lot of drug references, a lot of sex references, and stuff like that. I love writing. I'm going to be doing a lot more of it over the years. Don't worry, there's going to be plenty more books. I want to fill up a whole bookshelf just with my own editions. That's about all. Peace out.